Highway 191 stretched endlessly through the Wyoming darkness, and Isla's bloodied face told only half the story. 6 hours of walking, $73 to her name. When the truck's headlights finally appeared, she knew exactly what she had to offer, and it wasn't money. "I'll do whatever you want," she told the rancher, her voice breaking on the words she'd never imagined saying. "Just get me to Jackson." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. The silence felt eternal. Then he said 4 words that would change everything. "That's not how this works." What happened next defied everything she'd learned about survival, about men, about the price of safety in a world that had taught her she was worthless. The Wyoming wind cut through Isla's thin jacket like broken glass as she stumbled along Highway 191, 3 miles south of Jackson. November darkness had fallen hours ago, turning the sprawling ranch country into an endless void, punctuated only by distant porch lights. Her feet ached in worn sneakers never meant for this kind of distance. She'd been walking for 6 hours since fleeing the truck stop where Marcus had finally crossed the line from controlling to dangerous. Blood had dried on her split lip. Her left eye throbbed where his ring had connected with her cheekbone. The bag over her shoulder contained everything she owned: 2 changes of clothes, $73, and a phone with a shattered screen that had died 2 hours ago. No family, no friends within 500 miles. Just the desperate hope that Jackson might offer some kind of shelter, some way to disappear. Headlights appeared behind her, the first vehicle in 40 minutes. Isla's heart hammered as she turned, thumb extended in the universal plea. The truck slowed, a beat-up Ford that had seen better decades. Through the windshield, she could make out a man's silhouette, broad-shouldered and wearing what looked like a cowboy hat. The truck stopped. Isla approached the passenger window, already preparing the words she'd never imagined saying. The man who looked back at her appeared to be in his mid-40s, weathered face shadowed by the brim of his Stetson. His eyes took in her injuries with a flicker of something, anger maybe, or recognition. "Need a ride?" His voice carried the slow, measured cadence of someone who chose words carefully. Isla swallowed hard. "I don't have money." She paused, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "But I'll do whatever you want. Just get me to Jackson." The silence that followed felt eternal. Wyatt Brennan sat motionless behind the wheel, his calloused hands still gripping the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Isla watched his jaw tighten, watched something shift in his expression that she couldn't quite read. Not the hunger she'd expected, something else entirely. "Get in," he said finally, his tone flat. "Front seat." She climbed in, clutching her bag like a shield. The truck's interior smelled of leather, coffee, and hay. Wyatt didn't look at her as he put the truck in gear, didn't speak as they rolled forward into the darkness. Isla's muscles stayed coiled, waiting for the inevitable turn onto some isolated ranch road, the demand for payment. Instead, Wyatt pulled a thermos from the cup holder and handed it to her. "Coffee's still warm. You look half frozen." "I said I heard what you said." His voice carried an edge now, sharp as a blade. "And I'm telling you, that's not how this works." He glanced at her briefly, and she saw something in his eyes that made her throat tighten. Sadness, maybe. Or disappointment, not in her, but in whatever world had brought her to this moment. "My name's Wyatt Brennan. I run a horse ranch about 12 miles north of here. I'm going to take you there, get you cleaned up, and give you a safe place to sleep. That's it. No payment, no expectations." Isla stared at him, unable to process the words. "Why?" "Because that's what decent people do." He turned onto a dirt road marked by a weathered wooden sign, "Brennan Quarter Horses." "Because my sister once stood on a highway just like you, and someone helped her when she needed it most. Because I can't fix the whole world, but I can damn sure fix tonight." The coffee burned going down, but Isla drank it anyway, letting the warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in hours, something inside her unclenched just slightly. The Brennan Ranch materialized out of the darkness, like something from another era. A sprawling two-story house with a wraparound porch, barn and stables silhouetted against the star-scattered sky, fenced pastures stretching into the night. Wyatt parked near the house and killed the engine. "Stay here a minute," he said, climbing out. Through the windshield, Isla watched him walk to the porch and disappear inside. Lights flickered on. She could run. The highway was only 12 miles back. But her body felt like lead, exhaustion finally catching up now that she'd stopped moving, and something in Wyatt's voice, in his eyes, had felt true. He returned carrying a blanket and a first aid kit. "House is warm. Guest rooms upstairs, second door on the left, bathrooms across the hall. There's a lock on the bedroom door." He handed her the items through the window. "I'll be in the kitchen making dinner. Come down when you're ready or don't. Choice is yours." Idla found herself nodding, moving mechanically as she followed him inside. The house smelled of wood smoke and something baking. Photos lined the hallway. Wyatt with various horses, an older couple who had to be his parents, a young woman with the same dark hair and strong jawline. Everything spoke of stability, of roots that went deep. The guest room was simple but clean. Quilted bed, wooden dresser, window overlooking the dark pastures. Idla locked the door and stood there shaking for a full minute before collapsing onto the bed. The tears came then, violent and unstoppable, 6 months of fear and degradation pouring out in gut-wrenching sobs. When she finally made her way downstairs an hour later, face washed and lip treated with antibiotic ointment, she found Wyatt setting 2 plates on the kitchen table. Chicken, roasted vegetables, fresh bread. "You didn't have to." "Sit," he said, not unkindly. They ate in silence for several minutes before Wyatt spoke again. "Tomorrow, I'll drive you wherever you need to go. Tonight, you're safe. That's a promise." Isla looked up at this stranger who'd chosen honor over opportunity and felt something shift inside her. "Why?" she asked again. "Because that's who I choose to be," Wyatt said simply. "Every single day." Dawn broke cold and clear across the Wyoming landscape, painting the Teton Range in shades of rose and gold. Idla woke to the sound of horses whinnying, momentarily disoriented, before memory flooded back. She was safe. The realization felt almost foreign. Downstairs she found Wyatt already dressed in work clothes, pouring coffee. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months," Isla admitted. Through the kitchen window, she could see the horses in the near pasture, their breath steaming in the frigid air. "They're beautiful. Quarter horses mostly, some paints. I breed and train them." Wyatt handed her a mug. "So, where can I take you today? Family, friends?" The question hung between them. Isla wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, buying time. "I don't have anyone. Not anymore." The words came haltingly. "My parents died when I was 19. I met Marcus 6 months later, thought he was my second chance. By the time I realized what he really was, I'd pushed away everyone else." Wyatt's expression darkened. "He'd do that to your face?" "Among other things." Isla touched her swollen cheek. "Last night was the first time he actually hit me, but the control, the isolation, the threats, that's been going on for months. When he raised his fist again, something in me just broke. I ran." "Good." Wyatt's voice carried steel. "That took courage. More than you probably realize." "Courage." Isla laughed bitterly. "I offered myself to a stranger for a ride. That's not courage. That's desperation." "You survived," Wyatt said firmly. "You did what you had to do to get out. There's no shame in that." He paused. "But you're worth more than you've been taught to believe. That's something you're going to have to relearn." "How?" The question came out broken. Wyatt studied her for a long moment. "I need help around here. Stable work, feeding the horses, basic ranch tasks. Room and board, small salary to start, no expectations beyond honest work. You stay as long as you need to figure out your next move. He held up a hand before she could protest. Before you say no, understand this. I'm not offering charity. I genuinely need the help. My regular hand quit last month, and I've been running myself ragged. But if you prefer, I'll drive you to Jackson, help you find other resources. Your choice, Isla, always your choice. She looked out at the horses again, at the vast open space that felt nothing like the cramped apartment she'd fled. At this man who'd chosen to see her humanity when she'd offered him anything but. "I'll stay," she whispered, "if you're serious." "I don't say things I don't mean," Wyatt replied. 3 weeks later, Isla stood in the training pen watching Wyatt work with a young chestnut mare. The horse had been skittish when she'd arrived, traumatized by previous rough handling. Now she moved in gentle circles around Wyatt, responding to subtle shifts in his body language, learning to trust again. "You see that?" Wyatt called to Isla. "It's not about dominance, it's about showing her she's safe, that she can make choices without punishment. Patience and consistency, that's how you rebuild trust." Isla understood he wasn't just talking about the horse. In 3 weeks, she'd learned the rhythms of ranch life, felt her body grow stronger through physical work, watched the bruises fade from her face. But more than that, she'd watched Wyatt live by the code he'd demonstrated that first night. Every morning he asked her how she was doing. Every evening they shared dinner and conversation that never veered into territory she wasn't ready for. He'd driven her to Jackson twice to meet with a counselor who specialized in domestic abuse survivors. He'd helped her open a bank account under her maiden name, given her space to heal without hovering. The local sheriff had come by last week. Marcus had been arrested 2 towns over after assaulting another woman. Adla had given her statement with Wyatt standing beside her, silent support. Now, watching him gentle the broken horse with infinite patience, Isla felt tears sting her eyes. Not from pain this time, but from something else entirely. "Wyatt?" she called. He paused, looking over. "Yeah?" "That night on the highway, you changed my life. You showed me what real strength looks like, what honor actually means." She climbed the fence rail, meeting his eyes. "I want you to know that I see it. I see you, and I'm grateful every single day that you chose to be who you are." Wyatt's weathered face softened. "You're doing the hard work, Isla. Healing, rebuilding, finding yourself again. That's all you. I just opened a door." "You did more than that," she said quietly. "You reminded me that I'm worth more than desperation, that my dignity isn't something anyone can take from me, only something I can choose to surrender, and I choose not to, not anymore." The mare whinnied softly, and Wyatt smiled. "Then I'd say we're both doing our jobs right." He opened the pen gate. "Come on, let's get these horses fed. Winter's coming hard this year, and we've got work to do." As they walked toward the barn together, Isla felt the November wind bite her cheeks and realized she wasn't afraid anymore. The road ahead remained uncertain, but she knew now what true strength looked like. Not in taking what's offered by the desperate, but in protecting the vulnerable. Not in exploitation, but in honor. That was the code Wyatt lived by, and day by day it was becoming hers too.